really happened with Sasha Banks and Naomi walking out on WWE. I am Luke Owen, DAD, returning to the Friday Team Danuke show in what feels like a long time. I think it's been like 4 or 5 weeks since I've done one of these Friday shows, but I'm not.
It has.
It's been a long time. But I haven't done a show with Denise Salcedo since WrestleMania. That is a long
Whoa, really?
time.
It's been Wow, Luke. Are you just avoiding her?
No, well, I mean, that's what some people might say. Like, I sometimes feel like I am. It was her birthday this week, and I sent her a message on Monday, and it was her birthday on Wednesday. Anyway, but I'm not joined by Denise Salcedo this week. I am instead joined by the fabulous, the wonderful Angela from Hobby Nights. Hey, Angela.
Hello.
Wonderful to have you on the show again. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing great. It's been a busy week.
It has, yes. It has been a very busy week in the world of wrestling news as well. And this episode is brought to you by our friends at HelloFresh. So, Angela, as many people know, I am a newly crowned DAD. I'm a father now. And as a father, I have very little time to actually make meals. And I love cooking. I'm a big fan of cooking. I love the preparation of cooking. I love the theater of cooking. I love the presentation of cooking. And since I had the kid, I've not been able to do that much because the little blighter needs me. And I have to... How
dare she?
I know. I've got to do things for the little idiot. So I have to like feed her. And then I have to bath her and put her to bed. So something like a HelloFresh, which just sends me all the pre-prepared ingredients in a box and really simple to follow instructions, is right up my alley. So HelloFresh, please do click the link in the video description down below, because if you use our link, which is POGWT May 16, you get up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts across 6 HelloFresh boxes, plus free shipping. Once you click my description, it will live update to count up the amounts of purchases, I have been told. So very cool. I am a big fan of HelloFresh. I've had some few boxes over the last few weeks, and bloody hell, it has made my life so much easier. Because I'm also, Angela, fun fact, terrible at shopping.
Oh, it's not that hard, Luke.
No, okay. Well, here's what I do, Angela. So say I want to make a Korean coleslaw, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, I need a white cabbage, I need a carrot, and I need this, that, and the other. What I will end up doing is buying more carrots than I need.
I see. So you just like overbuy, and then you just have so much excess food. Well, HelloFresh is perfect for that because they give you the proper portions, right? I'm actually getting my first HelloFresh box tomorrow. I signed up very recently, and I'm very excited because I have a big new kitchen to work in, and I want to get back into cooking because it's something that I haven't done in a really long time. So I'm excited for it.
Superb deal. HelloFresh, please do click the link in the video description down below. Right, Angela, let's get into the business, because on Monday night it came out, it was reported first by PW Insider that Sasha Banks had taken issue with the creative that she had been presented with at Monday Night Raw. And after some discussions back and forth with Vince, apparently some discussions with producers as well, she and fellow tag team champion Naomi walked out of Monday Night Raw, walked out on WWE during the broadcast, forcing WWE to change the main events, change the finish of said main event, change their pay-per-view plans, and they also released a statement about this. We'll get into all of that in a little bit, but I wanted to ask you first, because I've kind of talked about this on the Raw podcast, which is available in the archives, available on this channel. What did you make of the story when it first came out?
I was a little bit surprised. I didn't blame Naomi or Sasha for walking out at all, especially the weird statement that WWE put out there about how they were upset with, or they thought somebody was unsafe. I was like, I just feel like that's not true. Like, it just seemed really kind of bogus. So I assumed something else was going on, and therefore just was like, yeah, it's probably worth walking out if they were doing something creatively that you were just not into and didn't want to be a part of. And that's kind of what it sounds like it might have been.
Yeah, it really does feel like it was... the WWE statement is really weird. And it's because they don't do this sort of thing. Like, they don't put out statements. Sean was saying, Sean Ross Sapp over on the Fightful post-review they were doing for Raw, said that he always approaches WWE for a statement. On any story that he runs, always approaches them for a statement, and he very rarely gets one. Doesn't even get statements when he asks about people being released. He didn't ask for this statement. They sent him this statement. They sent him this statement. They sent Dave the statement. They sent Alvarez. So they forwarded this statement out to the press as almost a way to get ahead of the story.
Yeah, I was going to say that feels like they're trying to cover something.
Exactly. Yeah, we had someone ultra chatted in on the Raw podcast said like my mum works in PR and she read the PR like the thing and she said this feels like someone who is spinning a narrative. This is someone who was like, we need to get our version of the story out there now.
Which has been interesting because, like, from my understanding, Sasha and Naomi have been very silent about things since they've left, right? Like,
haven't said a word.
Yeah. So, like, it's so weird to me that WWE felt the need to really immediately jump on this, send out a statement when they normally don't, when both women have not done anything other than leave the championships behind and walk out. And I know that, like, you know, I've seen people saying that it's a little unprofessional to leave on like the day of an actual show. But for me personally, I'm not surprised that a change had to happen because WWE does that all the time. So I don't really think as a fan, it impacted the actual like cadence and flow of the show. And what's going to happen at the pay-per-view is inevitably going to freaking change anyways. So like that doesn't matter.
Yeah. So the story goes is that, Sasha, the plan was a 6-pack challenge. It was Sasha Banks, Naomi, Asuka, Becky Lynch, Doudrop, and Nikki ASH. And there's some conflicting, and what I find very fascinating about this and why I wanted to do this as the podcast is the conflicting stories about what's the plan, what the finish was going to be. Right. Because on one side of things, you've got this guy who was posting up on Twitter, and he did this ahead of WWE's statement and Fightful's report. I do need to add that, who's apparently friends with Naomi, and he was the one who was getting their statement out, getting their side of the story out there. He said in that the plan was for Naomi to pin Sasha Banks. And that was going to set up Naomi versus Bianca Belair at the pay-per-view, and Sasha Banks would then do an angle, and she would face Ronda at the pay-per-view. But Sean's report is that the tag teams were never going to interact. Naomi and Sasha Banks were never going to fight. Nikki and Doudrop were never going to fight. And it was actually going to be Naomi pinning Nikki, and that was going to set up the pay-per-view match. So there's always these conflicting reports, which I always find very, very interesting about this.
Yeah.
And so what Sasha proposed was that, well, Sasha and Naomi, so we don't know exactly which one it was, but the reports have all said it's usually Sasha in this, said that, well, what does this mean for the tag titles? What we have had these tag titles now since WrestleMania, and we've had no stories with them since. What does this actually mean for the tag team division and women's wrestling as a whole? And they were like, doesn't really mean anything. You're just holding the belts. You're here to make the single stars look bigger. And they weren't really cool with that. So they proposed instead they would do them versus Nikki and Doudrop at the pay-per-view. WWE said, nope. And actually, I mean, Dave Meltzer writes in The Observer, is like, in fairness, they did beat them clean last week. So why would a pay-per-view match make that any difference? And they came to a conclusion where they weren't happy. Apparently, like, it's so weird because, like, Adidas head statement on Twitter said that, I mean, I've actually got the quote here. It said that they had a meeting with the boss. Your boss takes the meeting and everything is going really well. He understands your concern. The meeting ends well and the match is told to be reconstructed. And then the producers of that match and the producers of the show are the ones that got mad about it. But according to all the other reports, Vince never changed his mind. Vince was always 100%, this is the direction we're going. We'll get onto that in a little bit because there's some theories surrounding that. And in the end, Sasha and Naomi made the collective decision to walk into John Laurinaitis' office, hand over the women's tag team titles with their suitcases packed, and walked out the door. When they walked out the door is still pretty unclear. Like, there's some people say that it was before the show, some people say it was during the show, some people say it was just as the show started. But yeah, either way, they walked out the door.
I'm not sure it really matters when they actually walked. It's more just that they made a statement and went, we aren't happy with this. And you don't respect these belts, so you can have them back. Because that's really kind of how I feel like them leaving them, especially, is more like, well, you don't really care about these, so we're not going to care about these. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly right.
We're going to go do something else for right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Sasha Banks, you're like, I've probably got quite a few offers like on the table ready for me to like look.
Yeah, I mean, she can just jump back into doing stuff for Star Wars and any other acting that might come her way. Like that'd be great. I'd love to see more of that.
So the the statement that WWE released is interesting, but like the guy, the Adidas head guy, like this was from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. It said the statement is notable because of the decades-old "Vince loves us, but that damn producer screwed us" narrative that's in full force. The statement noted that their meeting with McMahon claimed everything went well and he understood it, but it was the producers that screwed things up and got mad at them for not doing what was originally booked. In reality, McMahon was the one insistent on not changing the plans for the pay-per-view, told others who informed them, and they thought the producers had reneged on the agreement. McMahon always operates with the idea on the day of the show to get the planned and advertised match in the ring, unless he himself wants to change it. Some laughed about the WWE release because the company so frequently advertises matches and doesn't deliver on them because McMahon changes his minds, as well as factors that come up like health issues with talent. In the sense, that's why a change in a match on Raw would be such a big deal. But changes because two people walk out are very different than the usual reasons for changes in what's been planned or advertised. Obviously, being told to fix their attitudes didn't go well with them, but from the post, their side of the story was to deny there was any issues working with the other women, which was WWE's big argument. The reason why this match isn't happening is because Sasha and Naomi felt uncomfortable being in the ring with two of the competitors.
Which I did not believe as soon as I read it. I was like, there's no way that's absolutely true. Like, there's no way that's true. They've never, or at least recently, I've not heard of anybody in the women's division being claimed to be like unsafe or anything.
No, it is an incredible thing to say. This is what they said in their statement. Quote, they claimed they weren't respected enough as a tag team champion, and even though they had 8 hours to rehearse and construct their match, they claimed they were uncomfortable in the ring with two of their opponents, even though they've had matches with those individuals in the past with no consequence, end quote. And Sean broke down in the Fightful Slate report, it's Becky and Asuka that WWE were alluding to.
Which I don't get.
Yeah, so there's no way, absolutely no way. And like, I don't know anything here. I don't know Sasha and Naomi personally. I don't know Becky and Asuka personally either. But like, as a fan and as someone who's been watching this product for a long time and has seen the way they interact, there is absolutely no way that Sasha and Naomi looked at Becky Lynch and Asuka and said like, well, I think I'm uncomfortable being in the ring with them.
I know. I was thinking the same thing, especially Sasha, considering she has fought both women multiple times in NXT.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And on the main roster.
No way.
And on the main roster, they've had, like, actually, WWE right in their statement, they've had lots of matches together.
Yeah, tons. Both, on both programs.
So that was their statement. And then Fightful had the report about Naomi pinning Nikki ASH. Those close to the situation said that Naomi and Sasha Banks didn't claim they didn't want to work with Becky Lynch or Asuka. Instead, we're told that Sasha Banks and Naomi were angling to work with Nikki and Doudrop at the pay-per-view. The talent themselves hadn't heard that Sasha and Naomi considered anyone unsafe until the statement was released. WWE talent also got the statement on their internal talent relations app, which, as I pointed out in the Raw review, also means Sasha and Naomi got this statement, which must have been something.
Yeah, I that reaction would have been probably fun to see. Very just suddenly angry.
But it's what I find interesting here is that over the last few days, then there have been two sides to this story. Sorry, stop my microphone there. There has been the side that has been with Sasha and Naomi. They stood up for their rights. They stood up for their creative. They stood up against bad creative, and they walked out on the company. We have been asking for wrestlers and stars to stand up for their creative. This is bad creative, and I do not want to do it.
Yeah.
And they took the stand. We are going to walk out. So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that the creative they were given is not as bad as some others are getting. And really, this creative was, you're going to win and then be one of the featured matches at a pay-per-view. There are people who are getting way worse than that. I'll get into some Fightful's notes on that, but I thought I'd get your take on this first off.
So when it comes to them, like, not necessarily having the worst situation, but still not being happy with their creative and deciding to walk out, I understand, because, like, if the plan legitimately had been to have them go in like separate ways, and not separate ways, like not split the team or anything like that, but the Ronda and then I'm blanking on the name right now, Bianca match, then to lose, and then also to not further their own belts, it does kind of sit there and go, well, what's the point of me having this?
Exactly.
Why did you bother giving me this title, this extra responsibility to lift the team up,
this extra
and not actually
carrying
having to
my
do anything
luggage as well.
Yeah, exactly. Having to carry it around, do stuff with it, but you're not letting me actually use it. You're not letting me actually defend it. And instead you're having me eventually lose and make like those belts feel even less important and me subsequently less important. And I don't know. I think they did the right thing. Like I would have left if that was the case.
I liked Sean put it on the Sour Graps over on their Patreon, said like they didn't want the tag titles to be used as fodder for singles feuds.
Yeah, like that.
Completely agree.
You shouldn't be. And I know that like WWE doesn't care about their titles anymore. Like they don't really hold them in high prestige unless it's the one that's on Reigns. And I guess the Usos with the tag team, but that's just because part of the bloodline. But if it's not around him, it doesn't seem like it really matters, which is sort of a weird thing, honestly, considering Naomi is married to Jimmy Uso, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that maybe they'd like want to bring them in to the bloodline. Like, why not have the women's tag team and have even more belt surrounding your top champion?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it was Roman or the Usos did an interview, like, actually, like last week or so, where they were like, we would love to have Naomi as part of the Bloodline faction because it makes sense, and fans have been asking for that for a long while as well. Like, that completely adds up to put her into that group.
I also just think, in general, people want to see more mixed like groups. Like, what's
so cool about Judgment Day?
Yes, like that was a great call. I want to see, like, I need an AEW for House of Black to finally get.
Julia Hart,
yes. Because like, I mean, it needs to happen.
I'll be honest with you, I'm ready for that storyline to be done with, because that storyline has been told for like months and months and months. And as I've always said in the show, there's a difference between long-term storytelling and a story that takes a long time to tell.
Yes. But the point is that a lot of these factions, I think, would benefit having some women added into them. 100%. And Bloodline would absolutely be great with Naomi. And frankly, you can add Sasha in there just to have the extra, like, we've brought her into the family.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Heyman's there.
Like, exactly. That's exactly the point.
You can easily write in the line, she is part of us now. She is part of the family. Welcome to the family and stuff. I easily could be done.
And it would be really cool.
Yeah, it would be really cool. What I find so fascinating about this story as well is that you've seen a lot of wrestling journalists putting out their sort of what their sources are telling them. So like Dave Meltzer has had his sources. Brian Alvarez has had his. Mike Johnson, Wade Keller, and Sean Ross Sapp. And you look at one side of that, Brian, Dave, Wade, Mike, the old guard, the guys who've been doing this, you know, in Dave's case since the 1970s, in Brian's case since the mid 90s. Like a lot of these guys have been sort of like, you know, the way that they have framed it and the way that their sources have put it, and sources are always looking to push a narrative. No matter who your source is, they are looking to push a narrative to you. I have had wrestlers tell me things because they are looking to push a narrative and they want me to say it like, this is what I've heard, right? This, that, and the other. And all of their sources have been the ones that like, no one is on that Sasha and Naomi side. Everyone is against them. They've got all this major heat because they walked out on the show. They think it is poor etiquette. It is unprofessional, which is what Corey Graves, not him directly, but being fed a line, said about them on Monday Night Raw. And then you got like Sean on the other side of things, which is like, it's a lot more mixed than you would expect. And I'm unsurprised by that because like you sent me in the DMs, like Shayna Baszler's praise of them and like the defense of them was very much standing up for them. She
absolutely was. And she was also being a badass by clothing a Primark from Warhammer 40K, which was also just super cool. But yeah, no, it did seem like a lot of people were supporting them. So it does seem super weird that I almost said Games Workshop. WWE.
Which is a lot like WWE when you think about it.
I mean, they both, yes. I've made that comparison in my own videos of being like, well, it's like when WWE does this. But yeah, I just like, it's such a weird mixed narrative. I think I'm more inclined to believe that it is actually a bigger, more mixed problem than what WWE is trying to lay out, which makes sense. I mean, they're trying to cover their own butts and, you know, make themselves look better.
I agree, yeah. This was what Fightful reported. This was on Wednesday. This is what they posted. One talent indicated that they often see criticism of WWE's handling of champions, the tag team division, the number of women's tag teams, and the booking of women in general, but see it even more see even more criticism when talent stand up against it. However, one consensus among those that we talked to is that leaving during a show you were scheduled for before that segment is something that is likely to lead you getting buried throughout said show. One longtime WWE talent was quick to point out that not even Steve Austin's walkout was done in that fashion. He was gone well before the show in question. Another female talent indicated to us that they didn't see anything particularly egregious worth leaving the show over, but understand the creative frustration. Contrary to other reports, we've spoken to numerous talent in and outside of WWE that have been supportive of Naomi and Sasha Banks' stance at the duo in general. However, the much larger population lies in the not being happy with creative is fine, walking out is fine, but walking out during the show isn't fine camp. In regards to reports of Sasha Banks not being liked backstage, we had heard from several talent that things have seemed to ease up in that regard in recent months.
I'm confused how walking out's okay, but walking out during the show is, because like with the way that WWE's shows function, because they constantly are changing last minute, when else would they have walked out?
Yeah, it's like, do you do the show and then walk out, like, and then say, but I'm not going to go to the pay-per-view? Yeah,
like it's more impactful to just not do that show, but you'd have to be there to find out if they've actually adjusted or done what you asked for or discussed. Like, yeah, I think there was no other choice for them to not be there.
I don't know quite fully where I fall on this, because I agree that I think walking out, I think, is the right thing. I think standing up for your creative is always the right thing to do, and I think standing up for yourself is always the right thing to do. But there's that part of me, and actually, me and Ollie made this comparison on Raw. Like, you can do that and be unprofessional, and they are one and the same thing. Like, walking out during a show is unprofessional.
Yes.
But having said that, like, as Sean puts it here, one person close to the situation believed that the statement WWE put out during the show was a way to pit talent against each other. And that's like, and then that makes me think, like, God damn, absolutely right, walk out on that company, because that is a toxic working environment.
That's why I don't like, that's why I am in full support of it. Everything in WWE's history has led me to believe that they have only themselves in their best interest, like, and their talent isn't necessarily always part of that. And so I completely agree. I think them leaving during the show is what they should have done best, because it's what's best for them, honestly.
Which brings up the question then, really, like, which is, what is next? Like, what are the next steps here? Meltzer writes in The Observer, WWE have not made a statement since Monday. They've not stripped Banks and Naomi of the tag titles, nor suspended them. There was nothing past internal speculation on what would be next, such as filling the title vacancy if need be, or the business end of handling the situation ago. So, yeah, it is. They're not going to release them.
I don't think they're going to release them.
100% they're not going to release them. And Meltzer makes this point here in The Observer. A few months ago, there was a segment on SmackDown where Charlotte Flair went against the script and wouldn't hand Becky Lynch a title belt and kept it from her. Lynch was furious, and Flair, who had expressed concern about thinking the segment didn't make sense, went out and didn't do as she was told. She was sent home, but was quickly brought back. We were told at the time the decision was made not to punish her or get rid of her because they did not want to hand Flair over to AEW. With Naomi and Banks, even though neither is pushed to the level of Flair, the idea may be the same.
I think it would be the same. Absolutely. You do not want either of those women going over to AEW. I was talking to you a little bit before the show of like, I have been dreaming of having them go to AEW, because I actually would love to see Sasha and Naomi join the Baddies with Jade. I think that could be amazing. And I think there's a great potential for a sort of longer term storyline where if this happened, Sasha would want to take over the Baddies because, you know, she's the boss. She's used to being in charge. So you could do like a Bullet Club level like story where she eventually takes it over and you have this great like back and forth between her and Jade, because like Sasha makes everyone she works with look amazing. Jade has massively improved already, and since this would happen like later on in the storyline, just it'd be so good. And the Goliath and like David and Goliath match, because of their height differences, perfect.
Like, there is not a cat's chance in hell that these two are getting their walking papers here. And like, why? Roderick Strong wouldn't get released. Like, Roderick Strong asked for his release and WWE said no. not because they want to keep him, but because they do not want him going to AEW. And they don't give a monkeys about Roderick Strong. You think they're going to let Sasha Banks walk out of WWE and like either go to make a massive star of herself like Batista did, or go to AEW and help the competition? This isn't like when Steve Austin walked out. They can happily let Steve Austin walk out. There was no competition for him to go to. There's a completely different scenario now.
I also think that's why we haven't seen further statements from WWE. I think, so thinking about it now, that statement and the fact that they haven't done anything else really feels like they were worried Sasha and Naomi were going to, I don't know, start a fire or something and get ahead and I guess give their side of the story and rally an army or something. I don't know. It just seems so weird that they did that one statement, haven't done anything since, but they're also not releasing them because obviously, like you said, they don't want them to leave. Especially, I think, not Sasha, with the fact that she could go do acting like The Rock and Batista and Cena and just completely abandon them altogether. And then Naomi really, they need to do more. If they do keep her and if they actually come to some sort of agreement, they need to do more with her because she is completely underutilized. And I hate how much they just constantly sort of build her up and then snatch it all away and just put her back where she was. And it's just guys, she is amazingly talented. Use her more.
So we ragged on the storyline that she had with Sonya Deville. I mean, Pete and Tempest went off on it every single week on the SmackDown podcast, and rightly so, because it was not a good story. And it was a story that lasted for months and months and months and months and months, but was in first gear the entire time. It was it felt like a week one feud, but it lasted for 6 months. And then it ended very prematurely just to get Ronda over. So it was not a good storyline. However, Sean did an interview with Naomi ahead of WrestleMania, and she said that she really enjoyed that storyline. Why? It's the first storyline she's ever had in WWE that was longer than 2 weeks.
You know what? That's fair.
I mean, absolutely it's fair, but also she's been there a long time. And that's your first story you've had that you can consider as be a good story that you've had. That's an insane prospect.
That is. God, I hadn't... Really, that's the longest. I mean, I'm thinking back, and I'm I can't remember anything else. I mean, even when she was doing Funkadactyl stuff, back in the day, she didn't have stories.
What did she do when she was champion? She was champion with the glowy belt, but what story did she have when she was champion? I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
No, I can't either.
So no, I completely agree with you. If you do bring Naomi back, and I think both of them will come back.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think both of them will come back is the same reason that Mustafa Ali, I think, has come back as well. I want to point out, this is speculation on my part. I have not heard anything. I'm not reporting anything. This is speculation on my part. Mustafa Ali came back because he was afraid they were going to freeze his contract. They were going to Brody Lee the situation and keep him, his contract expires in 2 years' time. He was going to be stuck there. And not only that, if he's not shown up for 2 years, they can add another 2 years onto his contract. If you're Banks and Naomi, you have got to just work out the rest of your contract. Otherwise, if you stay at home and you refuse to go to work, your contract is frozen and you are stuck for a longer time.
Which is such a shitty situation to be put into.
Language, Angela. Language.
Sorry.
I called Denise out for it. I'm going to call everyone out for it.
That's absolutely fine. I'm so sorry.
Unless you're Eddie Kingston. I will not tell Eddie Kingston to not swear.
Okay, I wouldn't tell Eddie Kingston to not swear either.
I will let him just run wild. The other side of this, but we'll move on and get into the rest of your Ultra Chat, or all of your Ultra Chats, in fact, in just a little moment. The last thing I wanted to talk about this is not just so much the pitting of talent against each other, which we have seen in WWE's a press statement that they've put out. It is also this idea that all of this is Sasha and very little of it is Naomi. So Adidas Head's thing was they did this together. Fightful have said they made this choice together. This is what Meltzer wrote in The Observer. Banks, who has walked out before when the decision was made for her and Bayley to lose the tag titles to the Iconics, was already unhappy with WWE going in. After some time, she did return. She had little choice since WWE had her under contract and could freeze her time for not performing. The situation is similar here in the sense that no matter when Naomi and Banks' contract is set to expire, the company could freeze them until they return to work, so they couldn't work anywhere else. Many suggestions included reports this was mainly Banks and that Naomi was coerced and left out of loyalty to Banks, or that she was somehow manipulated by Banks. That story came out immediately, but others have said this was very much a joint decision and both of them were of the same mindset. So I think there were some reports. Arian Andrews, the former Cameron, also said to SE Scoops that this is totally Sasha Banks and Naomi was coerced into doing this. I've got to think that this was a joint decision.
I also really think it's a joint decision. Naomi does not strike me as a woman who is just going to go along with something that's potentially going to lose her job or like freeze her contract for just because she's. I don't think she'd be forced into that. This is basically the point I'm making. I just don't think that's a decision that she would make and feel like she was forced into. I feel like she'd want to be doing it because she was unhappy with what was going on.
Naomi's an interesting one as well, because Meltzer was talking in the week about that, like her contract might be expiring soon.
Oh yeah, I had heard that.
Yeah, and he writes here, it's believed that Naomi's contract was due soon. We were only told that it was surprising that she did this while negotiating a new deal, particularly since new deals in WWE, due to the competition, are far more lucrative than ever in the past, and most that being pushed have been gotten major raises to stay. This is also a major political aspect with Naomi, who is the wife of Jimmy Uso, meaning a cousin by marriage to Roman Reigns, the most powerful wrestler right now in the company. The family has a lot of leverage if they want to go to bat for her.
I hope that Roman does support the decision. Like, I have no idea. I've not heard anything about like his feelings on it. I imagine we won't until it's something official because of his presence or like his where he is in the company and everything like that. But I do hope that like ultimately he supports it if she was in fact getting really bad creative and not actually being respected, which is what it sounds like.
So, very last thing to note. It is SmackDown tonight. Currently, there has been no announced segments. Yeah, I know. We all figured out. Oh, yeah, it is Friday, isn't it? It is
Friday. I do have some wrestling to watch.
We've had nothing from WWE.com about Sasha and Naomi being on the show. PW Insider have reported that Jimmy Uso did travel to the show, but Naomi did not travel with him. The report also notes that a subscriber has told them Sasha Banks was on the same flight as them yesterday, and that flight was heading to Minneapolis rather than Michigan. Okay. So how much you want to believe that side of things is here and there, but apparently Naomi has not traveled to the show tonight and Sasha is not there either.
I mean, I'm not really surprised by that, especially since we've not seen statements from either of them. We've seen nothing else from WWE. I can't expect to actually see them at a show until some conclusion has happened with this.
Exactly, yeah. I would say this is, I think, quite similar to the Mustafa Ali situation we had, which is that Ali was given credit that he didn't like, had a major blow up with Vince McMahon, and he walked out. And he just didn't go to work for like 4 months or whatever it was. I think we may see something similar here, where
I completely agree.
Until something gets resolved between the two parties, we probably won't see a Dickie Bird from them. And I think they'll probably stay quiet on social media about it as well.
I think so too. Just they've been so quiet already. I can't imagine them changing and just suddenly, blurting out everything that's going on and why they're so frustrated. Although that would be nice.
Yeah. It would be nice to hear from them.
Clear some things up.
Exactly. Tell me which side of the story I'm supposed to believe. Were you supposed to pin Nikki or Sasha? Come on, someone tell me.
Tell me what was the plot. So that I can be mad about how bad their creative continues to be.
I want to be mad about one of these situations. Tell me which one. So that is everything. Do you have any final thoughts you want to add onto this before we move into everyone's Ultra Chats?
No, we've said quite a bit, and I support them. I hope they get what they're looking for and that it can be resolved smoothly.
Indeed. This episode is brought to you by our friends at HelloFresh. With 50 weekly options, including a rotating selection of items at HelloFresh Market, there are plenty of delicious dishes to choose from, no matter the occasion. HelloFresh offers so many recipes to choose from each week, you'll never end up in a recipe rut. HelloFresh has options for everyone, including family-friendly, fit and wholesome, quick and easy meals. So there's something to please even the pickiest of eater at the table, even if it is you. There's pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan options, which is very handy for me. I'm a vegetarian. My wife is vegan. So there were plenty of options for us to choose from. She's also gluten intolerant. There were options for us there as well. So we were able to tailor our meals and make some really, really tasty stuff. We had this lentil curry the other day. That was so delicious. It was like lentil and sweet potato, and it was just Oh man, it was so good.
That sounds delicious.
And I've got a super cheesy. This is just for me as well because my wife don't want it. A super cheesy tomato risotto that I'm going to make over the weekend, and I'm going to have it for my lunches next week, and I'm very excited about it.
Nice. Oh, that sounds so tasty. I can't wait for my box to show up.
Exactly. So be like me and Angela and click the link in the video description down below, and you too can get excited about HelloFresh. You will get 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts across 6 HelloFresh boxes, plus free shipping. And also, importantly to me, they are the first carbon neutral kit company. So thumbs up to you. Thumbs up to you. We have been told we have a new edict here at WrestleTalk that we are not to get political because people do want politics to be kept out of the wrestling. Which is why yesterday on AEW's podcast, we just said CM Punk wore a t-shirt. He sure did. He wore a t-shirt. It was a t-shirt. Let's get into your Ultra Chats, see what you have to say about this situation. And we are kicking things off here with Mr. C.J. Lilly. Said, can I ask a rhetorical question? Right, okay. So, if you are new to this channel, Chris is a massive Alexa Bliss fan, an Alexa Bliss super fan, you may ask. And what Chris tends to do is that he will read through Alexa Bliss's replies to her tweets, which will usually be filled with people sending hateful things to her, and then he will ask, why do people hate Alexa Bliss? And the answer I always give to you, Chris, and you never seem to pay attention to my advice, don't go looking for it. Because I've never seen anyone say anything horrible about Alexa Bliss in my entire life because I don't go looking for it. And it'll make your life so much richer. It will.
And I don't know why people would dislike her. She's amazing.
She is lovely, and she seems like a swell person. Her favorite Disney movie is a Goofy movie. It's my favorite Disney movie.
It's not mine, but I love that movie. It's such a good one.
So good. It is. I mean, look, there's a lot of great Disney movies in the Renaissance era. You know, you can go to bat for Aladdin. We can go to bat for Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. But a Goofy movie.
Beauty and the Beast.
As a Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah, okay. It's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think I'd have Aladdin above Beauty and the Beast.
How dare you?
What do you mean? It's so the songs
no,
are
it
so
is.
good.
They are both very good. That's the one from my childhood that I just watched over and over and over again. You will never change my mind that it is not the best Disney film.
Hey, if you give me a karaoke option of what song I'm going to do, I'm probably going to do Gaston because that is a fun ass song.
It does have some of the best music. Let's be honest.
Isn't it just? That is a great music to have. Anyway, so Chris, asking why people are upset at Alexa Bliss. The answer is
don't go looking for it.
Don't go looking for it, my friend. Tony said, I'm tired of people calling Sasha and Naomi unprofessional. They are not slaves to WWE. They have the right to refuse anything they are uncomfortable with. I'm sorry, but working in protest doesn't have the same effect walking out as a statement. It's not a bad shout, actually. We got called out a little bit because on our thumbnail we had for Raw, and I can see where the confusion of this came. We used WWE's quote of unprofessional because that's what they called them. It's like, we put it in quotation marks, unprofessional. And I think some people read that as we were calling them unprofessional.
Whoops.
And I now looking back at it, I do see, I thought the quotation marks would have been clearer, but if you just see it on page, I think you could probably make that as distinction. So that's more on me than I think anything else. But yeah, I think you can make the argument that they were unprofessional in walking out. However, I don't think they were wrong in doing it either.
No, I don't think so either.
Devin K. Mercer said, although it wasn't a walkout, didn't Sasha leave after her and Bayley lost the tag titles at WrestleMania a couple of years back to the Iconics? Is this a case of fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me? Now, Devin, it's a curious one there. We did kind of talk about this briefly, but Sasha has, she was very upset with the creative when she and Bayley were the tag team champions, and they were carrying this women's division, and then they were just like, we're just going to hand them to the Iconics. Why? What's the plan? Don't have one. You're just going to lose them to the Iconics. And I love the Iconics. So I was cheering beyond belief. You can go and find this in the archives. I was cheering beyond belief when the Iconics won because they were my team.
Same. I actually was very excited when they won.
So excited. It was the best thing ever. But Devin, the reason why I'm curious is the shame on fool me once, shame on me. Is it Sasha or WWE you're referring to?
Yeah.
Who is the shame going to there?
It's an interesting question.
I mean, if you're Sasha, you're under contract. You kind of have to.
Yeah. I mean, I feel so bad for her because she does keep getting really bad stories every time they put her into a tag team. And that seems to be what they really just want to keep having her do.
Oh, I know, right?
And as somebody who just had some great stories in her early career when she was getting like big and everything, like in NXT and then going into main roster, like that has to be incredibly frustrating for her to suddenly not have any real like focus. And then for Naomi, like she's almost never had any focus, as we've clearly discussed, considering the thing with Sonya Deville was her longest plot. Like that still blows my mind. Like they just, neither of them were respected really.
I feel so bad for Sasha. I really, really do. Not like just in this situation. And the same with Naomi as well, because she is someone who has done so much good for that company and just like always seems to be overlooked for someone else. Like she did an amazing job in getting Bianca Belair over. That WrestleMania main event they had last year is one of the best WrestleMania main events in history. It is a incredible match, not only for just the in-ring work and the story they were telling, the results and how hard Sasha worked to put Bianca Belair over in that. And then really, when I think about it, what did Sasha do for the rest of the year?
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
And they do that to her all the time. They're like, hey, we're going to have you we're going to have you put over this other talent, which is what this whole scenario seems like it was kind of about anyways, with, depending, regardless of which plot of who was supposed to pin who is true, it's still her putting over other people and not actually like being able to showcase what she does and have her belts mean something and like have people care more.
I've also just been informed that the chat has just become a debate about what is the best Disney movie, which I'm very happy about. Like, I'm very happy to see that.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, actually, and is Mod Mother on the poll today? Can we get a poll going? Which is better, Beauty and the Beast or a Goofy movie? I think that'd be a really interesting one to have. Claude,
I feel like that's a little bit unfair advantage. Well, you know what? We'll find out. I feel like less people may have seen the Goofy movie is what I'm trying to get at. Like, I feel like that is a little bit more of a niche Disney film. You want to know what one of the actual best Disney films is? Like, legitimately, Atlantis.
Oh, you never hear love for Atlantis.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Mike Mignola. I love him. That entire movie. We're not going to talk about the cartoon or the second film. The first one. So good.
Oh man, you're getting a lot of love for this in the chat. Where is she? Where's Social Media Abby? Did you just say yes, Angela?
Yes. It is seriously, like, I think the most underrated Disney film out there. So many people have not seen it. It is brilliant. All of the characters are stunning. You will find somebody that you love. You'll probably find multiple. It's just so good. If you haven't watched Atlantis, people, go watch it.
Atlantis is so underrated. Atlantis is amazing. Atlantis is so cool. Delightful.
My cat's named after the princess in
it. Devin has confirmed with this as well. He originally meant Sasha, but now that you say it, it probably is both her and WWE. Claude says, I spent 10 years in a call center job that sucked the soul out of me until one day I experienced a moment of clarity where I said, this is never going to get any better. It finally sunk in, and less than an hour later, I quit. Sometimes you just reach breaking points. This was shared a lot on Twitter. I think actually Abby sent this across to me after all of this had come out, is that Sasha did the Broken Skull Challenge. Sorry, not the Broken Skull Challenge. Man, I'd love to see her on the Broken Skull Challenge. She did the Broken Skull Sessions with Steve Austin, where she said, look, I'm in a position now where I'm not just happy to be here. Like a couple of years ago, sure, just happy to be here. Now, I actually need something out of this. I need to be more than just happy to be here. And that is a superb attitude to have.
I completely agree. You should always go into a job, especially after you've been there for as long as Sasha has, and be like, this is not the attitude I want anymore. I can't just keep being happy to be here.
Punk Rock and Soda said, I've got to say, I'm genuinely proud of them for walking out. They stood up for what they believe in, and I'm extremely disappointed in the reports of the locker room not supporting them if they are true. Things can't get better if a stand isn't taken. And Chris Lilly said, can we really blame someone not being on their side when the bad creative seems to be on your champion? Sorry. Can we really blame some people not being on their side where the bad creative seems to be your champion? Well, main event Raw faced both champions at Hell in a Cell, so people would kill for that sort of bad creative. Alexa Bliss is one of those people. So that is Chris kind of taking the side of like people would really, really like to have the opportunity to win a main event of Raw and then go on to be on a pay-per-view. But I kind of agree with what you were saying earlier, that this is more about than just winning one match and then being on one pay-per-view. There's a much larger picture here, which is that, cool, well, what's then for next month? What's then for the month after that? Why am I holding this belt?
Yeah, what's the point of me having this if it's not going to mean anything and you're not going to let me do anything with it? And you're just going to like, I hate the idea that they were wanting to use one belt or a pair of belts, I guess in this case, to put over other belts. Like you have so many female talent and they're all actually quite talented. Use them and spread out some of that, like, just like spread it out, you know?
Yeah.
Make it so you can have everybody doing something and it's not just all your titles constantly weirdly feuding against each other, where it gets very kind of boring after a while too.
Yeah. And by the same token, you know, like Alexa Bliss has had dog-ass creative since she came back. And by that, I mean, she's had no creative since she came back.
Yeah.
She is a tool for Sonya Deville's storyline that I don't think many people are that into. Riot DR says, hey, yo, walking out on poor creative may seem unprofessional. Protesting your job for fair and or equal wages can also be seen as unprofessional. Sometimes being a professional is not what is important. Oh,
very true.
DR. God damn. There are some people that chat in a lot onto this show that I absolutely love when they speak up. Riot DR is one of them. Thank you, Riot DR. Legit Underboss said, Luke, speaking of people that I absolutely love, Legit Underboss, thank you. Luke, a Goofy movie is the best movie. Eye to Eye is an underrated original song. Abso-bloody exactly. Eye to Eye is on my running playlist when I do go for a run, which isn't often, but I absolutely adore that song. John Wick 1GM says Sasha Banks and Naomi contract are supposedly up in the next couple of months. Also, The Emperor's New Groove is an underrated Disney movie.
Also a good one.
It's
Gronk, pull the lever.
It's really weird, that movie, but hilariously so. I love it for it. Also, cannot recommend What a Cartoon enough as a podcast. If you're interested in animation and like the history of animation and how TV show cartoons get made, What a Cartoon is a fabulous podcast with an excellent Patreon that do incredible deep dives into they just recently released a 6-hour podcast on Roger Rabbit.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
It's real good. And they've done most of the Disney Renaissance movies as well. Highly recommend them. Will Campbell said, hi, guys. I think it would be cool to see Banks and Naomi in AEW. But with how poorly Tony Khan books his women's division, would that really be beneficial? Yeah, them joining the baddies sounds cool, but would they just be playing second fiddle to Jade for a very long time?
I don't think so. I feel like, well, I mean, I guess there's the potential of that, but I feel like AEW has been getting better with their women's division. And I think the reason I want to see that happen so badly is because part of the problem I have with AEW's women's division is they don't necessarily get very good stories. And I feel like being able to do an in-faction feud that doesn't necessarily just end in them all, like start with them being best friends and end with them just not being best friends anymore would be really good. And I feel like Sasha, with her boss character coming in with the backup of Naomi against Jade, who I don't think will take her, her crap or anything like that, would be a really interesting story. Like, it's not something super new, obviously, but we don't see that with the women very often. And I want to see it. Like, I want to see something different.
I agree with you. Like, I made this point, actually, fun enough, I made this point 3 years ago when Sasha first tried to leave WWE. And that is that if Sasha had joined AEW, if she had left WWE and joined AEW, their women's division would have been taken more seriously from the off, because I think that Tony would have said, well, I've got a star I can build this around. And as a star that people know it's a recognizable star, that gives me something to ground off. What he had in the early days was a pool of talent that not many people knew of. So he's kind of building everyone from the ground up. And in some cases, that has worked quite well. Britt Baker is a great success story for them.
Yeah.
Everyone else, maybe not so much. But now he's got like a Ruby Soho, and he's got a Tony Storm, and he's got a da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And yet I'm sat here being like, well, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, and Ruby Soho all debuted on the same show.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole then had lots of storylines that were featured on TV every single week, and Ruby Soho wasn't. And
Yeah.
I've seen more on TV of Danhausen, Jeff Hardy, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish. I've seen more of these guys on TV than I have Toni Storm since she came in, and they came in all around the same sort of time.
It's true, but I also think that the flexibility that AEW is offering to their women's, well, just to the wrestlers in general, because it's not just the women that get this, allows them to be a little bit more comfortable with maybe not being on screen as much. Because listen, I get it. Some people don't always want to see the women's wrestling or aren't as into it, and that's fine. Like, I understand that not everybody is going to get super into it or be as hyper supportive of it as a lot of this community is and myself are. But they do get to actually do a lot of other things. I mean, Toni Storm has other businesses. Jade has other businesses. All of them are actually able to go and do other social media stuff and actually make money off of that, not have it immediately all taken away. And at least with Ruby, I will say at least when she came in, her stuff with Ethan Page on his vlog was, I think, really good. And I do think it helped, like, get people into her, even though I know not as many people see that because obviously not everybody watches the vlog. But it was a really great storyline where they ended up going to a convenience store afterwards because I was a little over it.
Ten Rosa said Sasha and Naomi doing a world tour would be fun. Go to Stardom, go to Mexico, go to Europe. That would be so cool. AEW would be fun. Sasha versus Britt Baker, yes, please.
Oh, that would be great.
So good, right? Like, and that's the other thing I would say about if Sasha and Naomi, like, I'm in fantasy booking world now. Should have said this to Adam. Adam was asking me in the week, which Adam does every single month, by the way. What should I do for my next fantasy booking warfare video? And like Rodney Dangerfield, I don't get no respect around here. I should have suggested to him Sasha Banks and Naomi debuting in AEW.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have him do that.
That should have been
soon.
Yeah. I'm going to tell him that should be his next one. I should have told him that earlier. I should have told him that this week. I didn't think of it. Because, like, I think those two walking in, like, if you're Tony Khan as a promoter, bang, you can feature them all the smack time because everyone will be talking about it. And, like, that is what Tony needs. Like, Tony Storm left WWE, but there wasn't a lot of fanfare around it. Ruby Soho was just, let go by WWE. These two cats walked out and were officially released. And I'm in fantasy booking warfare speculation stage. If they walked out, though, like, they'd be on TV all the gosh darn time because it'd be like, just give them a live mic and just let them have it.
It would be kind of amazing.
Eternal Blue said, my free member chat lied to me and said it's been 7 months when in fact it's my full year anniversary as a member of this channel. How things have changed. I now have a brand new career and a partner. Luke has a kid. Time sure does fly. WWE is still petty though. Some things never change. Liam said, like I said a few days ago, I respect them because I want tag team wrestling, especially women's tag team, to be treated seriously. P.S. Lady and the Tramp 2 is the best movie. Whoa, Lady and the Tramp 2?
A sequel. You don't hear that very often as somebody's favorite.
Quick update on the poll as well.
Goofy Movie
is currently leading the charge. 65% of the poll is
That's
on
fair. That's fair. I understand.
Pretty close. Charles Berg said, I've been going over for a while whether or not this is a work or a shoot, and I've come to the conclusion. I think Cody did actually leave AEW. The first month he was back, I just assumed it was a bold strategy to drum up interest in AEW. But nope, he did just leave. Very good, Charles. You worked us all there. Yeah, that's the other thing. Sasha Naomi, not a work. And lastly for now, Cody James 52 said, I'm going to SmackDown today. Wish me luck. Also, random question. Random question. Who's your favorite Pokemon? Also, Hobby Knight, who are your favorite wrestlers right now / all time?
Favorite wrestlers right now are definitely, I'm going to say his name wrong because I always get it wrong. Bryan Danielson. Is that the correct name right now? Danielson, I flip it every time still. Also, Malachi Black, because I always call him Alistair because that's the better name. Dang it. And then all-time favorite, like, honestly, Asuka. Like, I love Asuka. I'm so glad she's back. I want her to do more things.
Oh yeah, she is the best. And who's your favorite Pokemon?
Oh, my favorite Pokemon. I'm gonna just.
Oh, but we
I have a
stumped her,
lot of
everyone.
favorite Pokemon, and I love like all of the Eevee evolutions. So I'm gonna say Eevee because she can turn into so many different things.
So on this channel, I've
Yes.
talked about this a lot. I was in year 8 in secondary school or high school when Pokemon came out. And Pokemon was something that the year 7s were into. So it was therefore lame. And because
Ooh.
that was the school edict.
Wait, so have you not played any of them?
Never played a
Any
Pokemon game.
of them?
Never
Really?
played a Pokemon game. Never seen the TV show. I've never seen the movies. I've
You
seen
did
Detective.
see the movie? Oh my God, Luke!
I have seen Detective Pikachu though, because I quite enjoyed that. But I've never played any of the games because I was not allowed to. It was a year 7 thing. It was a year 7 thing.
Whatever.
So that's school edict. It's just the way that the school system works. Is that if I did that, I'd get beaten up more than I already was, and I was already getting beaten up quite a bit, and I was trying not to get more beaten up.
Well, that's why you like it like on the down low, Luke, and you still play it. No, that's totally reasonable. Although I will say the first Pokemon movie legit made me cry. And I saw it like 12 times in theaters. I have like 4 of my Mew cards from back when they were giving those out, because they would give you like this holographic ancient Mew card. And I think I got like 4 of them before they stopped. Like they ran out of production and everything like that.
I mean, trust me, it's one of my great life regrets that I was born a year too late. If anything,
I mean, you definitely had total control over that.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I'd have been born in like the summer of '86, then I would have been a year 7 when Pokemon became popular in the UK, and I would have like probably been massively into it. Because like I have these chats with people. Like Pete's massively into his Pokemon, as are a lot of.
I need to talk with him about Pokemon more.
Yeah, and then like every year I tune into Games Done Quick, and there's so many like Pokemon blocks on there, and I would love to sit down and watch them, but I just don't. I can't follow along with what's going on because I don't play the games, and I'm a bit confused by the whole thing. So yeah, it's a blind spot for me.
You should watch somebody's Nuzlocke of Pokemon, because that's fun even if you don't really know, because you end up there's so many limitations on what you can do because of the challenge of that particular form of playing the game that I think you might enjoy it.
I still know all the words to the theme song though, because
well, I mean, you can't not know the words to the theme song.
Who doesn't know that? Like exactly. Honestly, who does? Through general osmosis, I think everyone knows the words to that theme song.
Exactly.
We've rattled on about Pokemon so much, we've had more Ultra Chats come in. Eva Cassidy said, I hate the idea that Sasha and Naomi aren't justified because there are people with worse creative. Just because you may have had it bad doesn't mean the people who have had it less bad can't stand up for themselves. An excellent point.
Exactly.
And Plot Twist Jones, who's been a member for 10 months, said, Dave, they can't beat them clean. What does a pay-per-view match do? WWE, Cody versus Seth after Cody versus Seth won clean at WrestleMania. Or, any other feud.
Yeah, that happens all the time. Like they do that. That wouldn't matter.
Yeah, it does happen all the time. But that is going to wrap it up for this episode. Angela, thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I should have apologized for winning at Quizzlemania. Oh, hang on. Sorry. We've just had a couple of more Ultra Chats come in. Oh. So Sheldon Jackson said, will we ever see you two on Blood on the Clock Tower in person or on Board Game Club in person?
I mean, I would absolutely love to be there in person. Unfortunately, there is a massive ocean in between us, but it is something that I want to eventually down the line discuss with y'all. So hopefully.
Well, I mean, I can say, if I was to, leak out some, insider information, it's been talked about whether or not another in-person one happens, but, names come up when you talk about it. Fun fact, I was supposed to be on the in-person Blood on the Clock Tower.
I was wondering because I did see that you were missing from that, and I was a little surprised.
I was supposed to be on it. However, I actually had some holiday booked for that week. Adam booked it for the week I wasn't going to be there. So then we were sort of shifting around. I was going to move my holiday somewhat. And in the end, I made the decision that I had to be a father, and my kid was really struggling to sleep. And my kid was her sleep cycle was really starting to get bad. and it was affecting us, and it was affecting us sort of mentally and physically and stuff, and it was affecting her mentally and physically. So I took the week off work to help her and help her like get in, and now she sleeps brilliantly and this and the other, and it's been totally worthwhile. It doesn't stop me watching the in-person Blood on the Clock Tower thing and getting massive FOMO because I should have been there. There's extra space there for me.
I'm so sorry that happened, but to be fair though, that is so sweet, and I'm glad that she's sleeping better, and that hopefully you guys are sleeping better, because that must suck.
I've got my evenings back, Angela. I can watch TV of an evening now. I wasn't doing that for like 4 months.
Amazing.
I haven't done that since December.
Which is crazy because you watch a lot of, like, you keep up with a lot of the shows and like movies and stuff, don't you?
I know, yeah. And like me and my wife weren't having dinner together. We are now, and it's so much better this way. And so with that, I was meant to do the in-person Blow on the Clock Tower, and I was also meant to record 2 Board Game Club episodes. And I didn't get to do either of them. And 2 games as well that I really wanted to play. One of them they picked specifically because I was going to be on the episode.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. It's really sweet, but I couldn't do either of them. But down the line...
We'll just have to invite you back later.
Exactly. Down the line, I should be on an in-person I should be there for a future Board Game Club episode. It's tough. I know I digress. I've got one more chat to do. It's just tough because they film them on Mondays and Tuesdays. On Mondays I do the news, and Tuesdays I review Raw. So it's very difficult for me to find the time to be able to do all of it.
Got it. That makes total sense.
And lastly, Vash TS says, I couldn't argue with them walking out. Some people want to see the status quo. And honestly, you can only beat your head against a wall so much before you realize this hurts and I shouldn't be doing it. Also, why is there no love for Oliver and Company?
Oliver and Company is another really highly underrated. It's because a lot of people I don't think saw it.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Yeah, it was in that period of time where people weren't going to watch Disney movies.
Also, talk about another one that makes you cry. Like,
do you know what? I've got a lot of love for Basil the Great Mouse Detective. And that is another one that people just don't see because it came out in like 1986 when they were making dog-ass like movies and making no money. Also, that movie is like 65 minutes long with credits because no money was given to it.
Yeah, no, it was like has nothing.
Yeah. But anyway, Angela, that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Please plug away. You've just had a video go live in the last hour or so please plug away.
You can find me on all social media at hobby_night. I did, in fact, just have a video go live. So if you've ever been interested in painting yellow armor on your Space Marines or your Orcs or what other army or miniature you might be painting, check it out because that's what I'm covering this week.
It is excellent video. I was just watching it beforehand, and it's superb work as always. I mean, particularly because I've got my unmatched boxes, and I've got quite a few unmatched things now. Adam said to me, "Are you going to paint them?" And I said, "I don't want to ruin them." So
that's what Pete said to me too, because I asked him when I was on the podcast with him last week. I was like, "Oh, so you're gonna paint your unmatched figures?" He's like, "No, I'm really worried about ruining them." And I'm like, "You just got to jump in. You just got to go. You just got to do it. You can, if you really hate it, you can always buy another box, or you can get something to practice on first."
That's what I may do. I mean, you've seen my Necromunda figures from when I was a teenager.
Yeah, and they were great.
I think great's a strong word.
Well, okay. Well, for the time, for what you may have been put an effort into it, like I think they were lovely. Listen, I think everybody should just try it once, paint whatever they want to. It doesn't matter what your skill level is, as long as you're having fun doing it. I find it very stress relieving.
Well, Angela, thank you so much for joining us as always. And thank you to every single one of you that has watched this show. Please, while you are clicking links, click the link in the video description down below to check out this episode's sponsor, HelloFresh, and get yourself some excellent free stuff through our link. In fact, what do you get free? Well, I'll tell you what you get free. You get 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts across 6 HelloFresh boxes using our link in the video description down below. We love HelloFresh. It is an excellent service, and you are all excellent people. Thank you all so much for joining us. Have a great weekend, everyone. I'll see you on Tuesday for the Raw review, but Pete and Tempest are back tomorrow reviewing SmackDown and Rampage. Jam that jam, everyone.
Jam that jam.